Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another episode of the Chillaxing and Chit Chatting podcast. Or if you're new here, welcome. My name is, of course, Miguel Watt, also known as Time Agent MW. And for today's episode, it's going to be centered on the Big Finish audios because I've listened to quite a few of them recently, and I just thought it'd be good to go ahead and review them all in one episode because I think it will fit in the 1 hour slot. And if I talk about various other topics, it'll probably um, go ahead and I would be rushing through the reviews, and I hope not to do that. So yeah, I'm not going to go ahead and waste too much time. So if you're new to the podcast, I do review on usually every episode an audio from the Big Finish catalog of Doctor Who audios. Big Finish being this audio company that for over 20 years has been doing the Doctor Who audios. I think 25 years now has been doing Doctor Who audios. I've reviewed several different various ones, and these ones I'm going to review are going to be interesting ones because they will focus on doctors that I've not talked about on this podcast in terms of Big Finish audios with them because these are kind of my first go-to audios with these doctors. These are my first introductions to them being represented on Big Finish audios. So the first one is the one that I listened to a while back when I was at the gym. It was one of the audios that I'm going to just share my screen now. It was part of what is known as the Classic Doctors New Monsters box set, Volume 1 specifically. So it features the Seventh Doctor, who I've watched all his era all the way through not too long ago. And so I'm now going to be diving into his Big Finish catalogue. And I've had a really enjoyable time actually diving into this Doctor's stories on television. I think Sylvester has done a really solid job of his Doctor, of course, and I think overall the audios with the Seventh Doctor bit the and overall I've had a real enjoyment watching his stories on screen. I have listened to another one of another audio with the Seventh Doctor, this one, which I'll talk about another time. That's part of the 60th anniversary that Big Finish did. But the one I'm taking a look at is, as I said, Volume 1 of Classic Doctor's New Monsters. And that particular audio, Classic Doctor's New Monsters, is very much a good jumping on point to Big Finish, I would say. If you're new to like Big Finish and you're wanting to start off with something that's a good jumping on point, this is a really good one. This is basically one of Big Finish's earliest releases when it came to having the license to do New Who, as it was called, the basically the first kind of revival of the of Doctor Who from 2005, which is turned 20. And surprisingly, there's not been too many big things talked about there. But yeah, that New Who's turned 20, and this was one of the earliest things Big Finish did, which is a box set that is pretty simple in terms of what it says on the tin. You get one each for 1 hour stories. They're all 1 hour. In the four stories in this box set, and they all feature Doctors 5, 6, 7, and 8 facing off against monsters in the revival. I've talked about Jadoon in Chains, which was the Sixth Doctor audio, and when I listened to that, that was part of the Tales of the TARDIS podcast. And I did listen to the Seventh Doctor's one, but not through Tales of the TARDIS podcast. But if you are interested, oh, sorry, no, it's not called Tales of the TARDIS. It is called Into the TARDIS. So Into the TARDIS is a podcast that also is a really good way to listen to Big Finish audios because if you have Apple or Spotify, I think, or any sort of thing that can listen to podcasts on, you can probably listen then to the Into the TARDIS podcast because it's a really good introduction to Big Finish because you get to listen to audios that have been picked out from Into the TARDIS, and Colin Baker will introduce a story, and it's usually the stories are split into two episodes, and it also includes a bit of behind the scenes as well. So it gives you a little sense as to what Big Finish is like with its audios, and it's a nice podcast that I'd recommend if you're wanting to get into Big Finish. And one of the stories and they've done, I think, all of Classic Doctor's New Monsters in this volume, anyways, on the Into the TARDIS podcast. I think they also released them before on BBC Sounds for free, so there's plenty of options to listen to this box set beyond just, the box set on the Big Finish website, which I have bought. And the one I'm going to be taking a look at in terms of the one with the Seventh Doctor, the one I'm going to be taking a look at, is one that is called Harvest of the Sycorax. It's written by James Goss, who is a writer that has written, is someone who has written for Doctor Who for quite a number of years and is a very high-profile writer for Doctor Who. And as you'll notice, of course, by the title and by the cover, this features the Sycorax, a monster that I think is going to draw in a lot of excitement because the Sycorax were a monster that I felt like that I think a lot of fans wished could return. And actually, I do have a bit of nostalgia for the Sycorax personally because when I went to the Doctor Who exhibition in Cardiff back in like 2008, 2009, I remember I got one of the toys there from the store, and this was back when also Doctor Who had pretty much every monster in Russell T Davies era got a toy, and I had the Sycorax toy, and it's a pretty cool monster to have. And these are monsters that appeared in specifically the Christmas Invasion, David Tennant's very first episode as the 10th Doctor, and these were monsters that had a good presence, good makeup, and everything. It's a monster that you hope to have seen more beyond the television series, and with this story, the plot of Harvest of the Sycorax, I'm going to read out on the description of the Big Finish website. In the far future, humanity has a remedy for everything. Whatever the problem, Farmer Corpse has the answer, and a designer disease tailored to every human's blood type. Zanzibar hashtag has no need to be sad, scared, stressed, or depressed ever again. That is until vicious aliens arrive on her space station intent on opening its vault. What will it mean for the human race if the Sycorax take control of what's inside? And when the Seventh Doctor arrives on the scene, can he convince Zanzibar to care about her life long enough to help him? And so that's the little plot description. And so what I'm going to do is play a little clip from Harvest of the Sycorax in which Zanzibar meets the Seventh Doctor at the start of the story.
You say the space station has been invaded?
Yes, and there's no sense getting worked up about it. Please, you need to be mindful. I find your behaviour upsetting. Attention. I'm detecting raised levels of anxiety. Can I recommend a single dose of Tranquilipam? I don't have any Tranquilipam.
You don't need any. Really, I mean, listen to me. You're in a hostage situation. Fear is a healthy reaction.
Is it? I don't like it. Attention. You are beginning to experience withdrawal symptoms. I recommend...
Shut up! What you are experiencing is fear. It's a self-preservation mechanism.
But it's not good. I've never felt this before.
You've never felt fear before?
Not before today. Oh, Pad. I recommend 2 doses of...
Thank you. Now, take a deep breath and hold it. No. Hold it for longer. As long as you can. Can you do that?
And this will help me calm down?
I hope so. Mostly, I need the silence so I can think. You're painting a terrifying picture. Now carry on holding that breath. Now let me see. Humanity is controlled through medication, yes? Emotions, appetites, and the need for sleep. Hyposprays for everything. And now you even infect yourself with designer diseases. I see.
And I breathe now.
Oh, yes. I'm done thinking. And breathe out. Calmer?
Not really.
Doesn't matter.
Are you going to start shouting at me again?
No. There's a bigger picture here. Humanity is in a pickle. What's your name?
Zanzibar hashtag.
Oh, delighted to meet you. Oh, ridiculous. It certainly is one of those times.
And what about you, Doctor? Do you just pop out of nowhere and be rude?
Mostly.
Oh. Attention. I have an announcement from the invaders.
Subacta, Pelgralta Talvana, Kolgatsa Chachif.
Translation. Unless the vaults are open,
Another
we'll kill
cattle
hostage.
dies.
You speak their language?
Oh, yes. The Sycorax. You humans may be ridiculous, you may be cruel, but you're capable of great charm. The Sycorax have never done anything charming in their lives.
So that is the so I hope you get a sense with also the clip that I've chosen, hopefully, that the story is a bit comedic. It's not one that's often taking itself too seriously. There is a lot of witty banter going around. And Zanzibar hashtag in this story is played by, I'm trying to see if I can find it in the cast list. There's a lot of actors because it's the whole box set mentioning the whole box set. Zanzibar hashtag Zanzibar Nisha Nayar and yeah, Zanzibar hashtag gives you the idea as to what the kind of tone of the story is, but there's still a serious kind of stake to it as well. And I think what was probably the most interesting aspect to the story is how it deals with blood control, which I won't give away too much, but basically the plot does heavily involve one of the aspects to the Sycorax that was in the Christmas invasion, which was the blood control, where they were able to control humans by blood control, which was an interesting little topic that wasn't addressed or talked about much in that story. So it's expanded upon here to tell a pretty overall not too bad story. It does have admittedly a plot line twist kind of thing that is admittedly not the most original plot line. And I wouldn't say that this is my overall favorite Seventh Doctor audio or one that I absolutely adored. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as Jadun in Chains, which I thought was a solid, really engaging story that also gave it probably some of the most in-depth take on the Jadoon. Whereas with this one, not as much, but it does provide some interesting, unique kind of aspects to it. And the cast overall deliver great performances. I don't think whenever it's with Big Finish, the cast are never really too much the issue. It's more down to, I think, whether or not I really gelled with the script or really got invested in what was being told. And whilst I was invested in some aspect, I did find myself thinking that the plot was overall enjoyable, but it was also something that admittedly isn't the most original plot line or something that I would say I found to be the most gripping or one that I found to be the most engaging. I'll have to listen to Fallen Angels again to get a sense as to if, whether or not I enjoyed that more, possibly more. But I do think this one was still not too bad, and I can understand if some people do like this one as well and gel with this one quite a bit, especially if you're a fan of wanting to see the Sycorax come back. They do play a good role in this, and the voice acting for the Sycorax once again is terrific. There's a great bit as well where it once again has, I think if I remember, the same kind of thing of the TARDIS translating, which is in the Christmas Invasion, where the Sycorax, for a lot of the story, are speaking in their own language, but then suddenly they start speaking English, and it's suddenly like, hold on a minute, the TARDIS translation circuits. And the Seventh Doctor, one thing I will say that I do quite like, I think admittedly about this, and I think from the other Seventh Doctor audios that I have listened to, is a thing that Sylvester McCoy has said himself about playing the Seventh Doctor. He's been asked on before about playing the lighter or darker version of the Seventh Doctor. What does he prefer? And he enjoys the being able to play a balance of both, and you get that in this story where he does play a seriousness to it. He has this sinister hatred when he realizes the Sycorax are involved, but at the same time he has those moments where he is a bit silly or comedic as well. So it's never too strained away from being too dark or grim. And admittedly, if that was constantly throughout the Seventh Doctor's audios, it would be considered as just very boring and not very interesting. So I can appreciate that. And I appreciate aspects within the story. Just as I said, it has some aspects of the plot, mostly with the twist that comes around later on, which is something that you've probably have seen in several Doctor Who stories before. I'm not going to say what it is, but you have seen it before several times. And so admittedly, it doesn't become the most fascinating or gripping story ever. And overall, I think that's what I was saying about the classic Doctor Disney Monsters box set. I mean, I've still got to listen to the Sontaran one with the Eighth Doctor, which I'll look forward to listening. And I believe that's the first time that they did an Eighth Doctor story within the Time War. But overall, I think classic Doctor Disney Monsters is a nice introduction to Doctor on Big Finish, but it's not what. But don't expect that thinking, okay, this is the quality. If you think this was fine and you're lukewarm on it, give yourself more of a listen to the rest of Big Finish because there are some real gems to check out from the Big Finish catalog. So I would say that, this is good, but go into also thinking and check out some other Big Finish audios, including maybe some other Seventh Doctor audios that are maybe better to check out. So I think that's what I've got to say regarding to Harvest of the Sycorax. Nothing too much to say. To be fair, I'm saving most of this video for one particular audio, which I'm going to be very excited to talk about. But one of the box sets I want to talk about, one of the audios I want to talk about beforehand, is to do with a set during a Doctor Who season that I've recently finished all the way through. I managed to get through to wrapping up this season So recently this came out. It was the latest in the Doctor Who collection, season 7, and I have it here. And you may have seen actually on my channel my recent unboxing video, which was from about a couple of weeks ago. I think it was about 2 weeks ago or something like that. And it was very exciting to unbox it. And I was surprised that I had gotten quite a lot of views for that. And I mentioned in the description as well with this um with this box set with the season 7 collection that originally I was going to basically I'm doing this still, so we're gonna do this, but originally when I was going to be reviewing each era of classic Doctor Who, I was gonna have a moment where I record myself taking a look at a collection box set if they have a season from a Doctor's era. But because they've ended up being so long and extensive, they took like the season 7 was 18 or something like minutes long. I was like, okay, I'm probably just gonna not get rid of it. I'll use it as just its own separate video, and then I will talk about the collection box set still in the era review. I just don't have to unbox it or anything. So, and actually, with season 7, I did watch. By the time I did the unboxing of season 7, I had rewatched Doctor Who and the Silurians and Spearhead from Space, and I'd also rewatched Ambassadors of Death, which I hadn't seen in ages. And then I finally watched recently for the first time Inferno. Not to give too much of the game away, but I will say Inferno definitely lives up to the hype, I would say. It took me a while, but by the time you get to the parallel Earth, it really lived up to the hype. The reason I'm mentioning it though is because I decided to listen. I've been listening to already Doctor Who audios with the Third Doctor, although I have chosen to review or listen to rather audios with the Third Doctor where it is set during season 7 with and in that season of course he travels with companion Liz Shaw, and Caroline John thankfully reprised the role in several Big Finish audios which I got the bundle of, and these audios were all part of a series called the Companion Chronicles. And actually the very first Third Doctor audio from Big Finish is in fact a companion chronicle with Liz Shaw, and it's the one that I'm going to be reviewing. It's the third one in the first series of what is known as Companion Chronicles. So to summarize as to what Companion Chronicles are, they're usually about an hour long stories that center on a particular companion in a Doctor's era, and they've usually done mostly the first 4 Doctors. Mostly the first and second Doctor and the third Doctor was because, well, the actors were sadly no longer with us. And as for the fourth Doctor's era, it's because Tom Baker had yet to sign up to do Big Finish audios. And the third audio in the series, in the first series, is known as the Bluetooth, which was written by Nigel Fairs and stars Caroline John as companion Liz Shaw, which I think was very, very exciting for fans. And it's the character of Liz Shaw is sadly one that was very short-lived on screen. She only appeared in season 7, which is also the shortest like Third Doctor season in terms of amount of stories in there. There's about 4 stories in season 7. Admittedly, most of them are 7-parters, but still, it's only 4 stories for this character, who is a character that a lot of people really have grown to appreciate. I think she was a character that was liked before, but I think over time she's been growing and growing in terms of love. I think today now she's regarded as a an underrated companion who should have been given a lot more love and appreciation. And I went as soon as I listened to Inferno, not too long ago after watching Inferno, I went ahead and took a look at this audio, the first in these companion chronicles, and the storyline, the plot is involves when Liz Shaw's friend Jean goes missing, the Doctor and the unit are drawn into the scene to investigate. Soon Liz discovers a potential alien invasion that will have far-reaching effects on her life, and the Doctor is unexpectedly reunited with an old enemy. And that old enemy, of course, as you can see on the cover, is the Cybermen, which is pretty exciting. This is the first, but this is not the only time that Big Finish have gone and decided to use the Cybermen as an enemy for the Third Doctor. Famously, the Third Doctor never really encountered the Cybermen. The Cybermen appeared, I believe, in Carnival of Monsters. I've yet to see that story, but I've heard that the Cybermen do appear in that story. And they've used the Cybermen in several other Third Doctor audios as well. But the Cybermen never encountered the Third Doctor really on screen, apart from Carnival of Monsters and potentially the Five Doctors. But there was never a story in his era where it involved those characters, those monsters. Sorry, just gonna stand up a little bit. Um, So, of course, Big Finish, give the wishes of fans to say, right, let's go ahead and start adding them in. And of course, because the Sidemen are involved, Nicholas Briggs is the only other cast member in this Companion Chronicles. Really, these are more kind of almost audiobooks where you have the companion, in this case, Liz Shaw, narrating the story. And I'm going to play a moment where she meets the Third Doctor, and it's when she is in the house of her friend Jean, who's a friend of hers from university who goes missing, as it says in the plot description, and I'm going to play a little section of that.
The doctor had to stoop slightly as he stepped through the low doorway to the kitchen. As he drew himself back to his full height, the light caught his shock of white hair, and for a moment I thought he was smiling. He wasn't, of course. With a deeply furrowed brow, he lay his hand on my shoulder and asked me how I was feeling. "You've been shopping," I blurted out, surprising even myself. "I love the new jacket." "Yes, well, I fancied a bit of colour," he replied warmly, and looked beyond me into the hall. "Shall we take a look?" "I'd rather not, if you don't mind," I said, my attempt at bravado starting to fail me. "I mean, I'm not saying that I was as obsessed with Puddles as Jean was, but I did live with him for nearly 2 years." "Puddles?" The doctor raised an eyebrow quizzically. "The cat," I explained, and suddenly, feeling tearful, sat down. He nodded sombrely and offered me a brief, understanding smile as he left the kitchen.
So yeah, that little section gives you an idea of you get the Third Doctor. So this is basically gives you an idea as to the Third Doctor meeting Liz, and being in the house, investigating what's going on with Jean. Of course, with the cover, it does kind of tell you that the Cybermen are involved. One thing I will say that surprised me is that the Cybermen are involved, but they do build up towards when eventually the Cybermen do fully come in. So I think, admittedly, because you're waiting for that and it's only about an hour long, you're kind of like, I was kind of thinking, okay, when are they going to pop up? But admittedly, that is a bit of, aside from that issue, I still found this to be an overall nice, kind of almost introduction to Companion Chronicles, because I've yet to have really listened to the Companion Chronicles range, and I've not gone ahead and, of course, listened to really much Third Doctor audios. So with that in mind, I will say that I did have overall a solid time with it. I think if I was to decide whether or not I preferred it over, the previous audio I reviewed, Harvest of the Sycorax, potentially, yeah, I would say maybe. I think, for me, what I liked about this story from the writing, as you saw, as you listened to in the clip, I think the writing is overall really good in terms of the character writing, the dialogue. The dialogue of both Liz and the Brigadier, and the Doctor, sorry, is really good. The Brigadier is in this actually, and that's really cool. And also, funny enough, I know I haven't met him yet in the Third Doctor's era because he pops up in season 8 first, but Mike Yates makes an appearance in this audio for a little moment, so that's pretty fun to have that. And I think Benton also makes an appearance as well, so that's pretty cool. But the writing and dialogue is really nice. I think that's the main sort of highlight surrounding it is the dialogue. It all feels very natural. And then when Caroline John is like doing the voice for characters like the Brigadier and the Third Doctor, it's not like a, oh my gosh, perfect impersonation, but she nails kind of the flares, the sort of how the way the tone, how the characters speak, which is pretty nice to be fair. And one thing this story does do that I think I've noticed on the plot descriptions of the other Companion Chronicles with the Third Doctor, Liz Shaw, is that they do center on kind of developing Liz, and one of the main things they develop on mainly is why she did in fact leave the Third Doctor, why she left UNIT and the Doctor behind, because I think from what it sounds like from the season 8 of which is the next season, of course, from the Third Doctor, um, it doesn't really give much of a description beyond leaving, going to Cambridge, I believe, going back to university, studying, or going her own way. But it's never really shown much on screen because it wasn't probably intentional that she was going to suddenly go away and no longer travel with the Doctor. No, instead you get but with these Big Finish audios you do get kind of more of a reason to why that is. And whilst I wasn't like always completely on board with this story, the Companion Chronicle, mostly I think because the 1 hour length, it's a bit short, but it does, and because the Cybermen don't pop up for a while, it does kind of give you that sense of, okay, when are they actually going to pop up? But the horror and the body horror I thought was kind of effective. There was some moments where it was like sounds a bit graphic, and I do like how it ends, this audio, and kind of you get the sense through the story as it progresses along. Okay, this is why at the start of this audio you have Liz saying this is one of several reasons as to why I decided to no longer travel with the Doctor, and it creates an overall story that, whilst I didn't absolutely love, I do think is pretty solid. And I think overall I would be happy to give this one a maybe a re-listen to maybe see if I get a better appreciation of it. But it does make me interested in wanting to check out the other companion chronicles, see how different they might be. With the character of Liz Shaw, and I'm happy to go ahead and listen to, of course, more of this character that I feel like as of course didn't get enough time to shine and only had brief moments in the story. And as I said, the dialogue is overall really nice. It's not just, I think, the character writing. I think one thing I will say is that Nigel Fairs writes the script very clear. So it's very clear in terms of when Liz is describing what's going on and everything, I can easily imagine in my head anyways, what is going on with the scenery and everything. And I do think that is quite nice. And I do think it was obviously quite nice to have it is good to have a Cybermen story with the Third Doctor, and to have that being set on Earth was adding kind of a very body horror element to it that does make this quite a graphic story. But admittedly, with Big Finish, they can tell stories like these where they're able to tell stories that are not suitable maybe on the show. But admittedly, to be fair, this is set during season 7, which I'm sure most of you, if you have seen season 7 of Doctor Who, you know that that is a very bleak season. A lot of the time, it ends with very grim circumstances, or just it has very grim, dark, bleak moments, and has a very gritty nature to the stories, and that can definitely apply here. But I think with what they describe as well in this story, it's quite graphic, and it's definitely something that a wouldn't be allowed maybe on to fly onto onto the audience of kids watching it, but also it is something that has a concept where it's down to your mind. The mind is the budget, and that's, to be fair, with all Doctor Who stories from Big Finish, the budget is very much what you imagine in your mind. If you imagine this cost about like a million, $100 million, or 300 billion or whatever, you can just imagine that in your head. um so I would say that with this one, the Bluetooth, I think it was a solid introduction to the Companion Chronicles. And admittedly, I think I do want to listen to it more than the Seventh Doctor one, though that is, to be fair, because I think, as I realise, season 7 of the Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who, so far has been my favourite in terms of classic Doctor Who. And it's mainly because I've watched season 25 and 26 as well, and I enjoyed those seasons. But I think with those ones, I think with most of the stories I want to rewatch, it's not only because I enjoy some of them, like Remembrance of the Daleks, but I think for stories like Curse of Fenric and The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, they're stories that I want to rewatch because I perhaps didn't click with them, but I want to maybe get a better appreciation of them as time moves on. Whereas with the season 7, I've enjoyed every story, and even the weakest one, which I think is Ambassadors of Death, is, I think, a really nice espionage type story and very much a fun one. If I want to put on a fun James Bond style Third Doctor story, that's what I put on. It's one of the closest ones. But the rest are all really solid. I think all the stories I want to rewatch, I'd happily, give another watch because they're all really good stories. And I think overall, it's a comfort era for me. I think the Third Doctor's era is one that I've enjoyed when I was younger, watching the Time Warrior on DVD specifically, which I'm very much looking forward to watching again. But uh, but with, like, season 7, you have like this 4 stories that are just quality, and I'd be happy to watch them again. And much like that, I probably would want to listen to the Bluetooth again. Perhaps not as good as season 7, but season 7 is one of those apex Doctor Who seasons. But I'd be happy to go ahead and give it a listen to it again, and I'd be looking forward to listening to more of these companion chronicles. And so the next box set I'm going to be taking a look at. So I've reviewed 2, and now I'm going to move on to the third one. And I've saved the third one for last because it's a box set, and the TARDIS behind me is linked to this Doctor. Not as much as the next as his successor. I should say, but it is the TARDIS he uses for this particular audio. So I'm going to share it. So I've talked about companion chronicles, and this is actually a fun little segue. I've talked about companion chronicles from Big Finish, but now I'm going to move on to another section, which is the Doctor Chronicles. Now I'm going to see if I can find this. The Doctor Chronicles. Da, 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 da. Uh, there we are. The Doctor Chronicles. So one of the so during the when Big Finish acquired the license to do Doctor Who audios with the revival, they couldn't originally get Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant, and they still have yet to have had Matt Smith or Peter Capaldi on board to play the Doctors. So they've decided in the end to just compromise by basically making the Doctor Chronicles, which basically has stories in which you have someone else taking over the role of the Doctor, or you have someone narrating a story that involves this Doctor set within this era. And I've already talked about one of them. I'll see if I've got it behind me. Oh. I do have it behind me. I do have it behind me. So that is the Doctor Chronicles. So this is the Doctor Chronicles. As I said, the Ninth Doctor, 10th Doctor, and and of course they've had narrated stories. They've told stories where you get a character from that era maybe narrating or telling a story, or you get someone else to take over the role. Someone else to take over the role. Ah, hitting my legs a little bit. Whoop. But and in terms of someone else to take over the role, one of the key people to often get involved when it comes to doing impressions for the Doctor is Jacob Dudman. One Jacob Dudman, and this guy I've has actually done the voice of a box and has done the voice of a Doctor in a box that I reviewed on this podcast. That being Time Jacked, which was the second volume in the 12th Doctor Chronicles, and it followed the 12th Doctor with a new companion that we had not seen before, known as Kira Sandstrom, a rookie time agent who paired up with the 12th Doctor in a sort of time hopping Indiana Jones style adventure that was overall a lot of fun and had a bit of depth to it as well because you had the substance of the Kira Sandstrom being this character who went on this journey. And this box set came out just before what came out in 20, and that came out in like 2021. And then a year later, we got another box set, but for a different Doctor, where this Doctor was also going to travel with a brand new companion. And this series is one that I originally was going to do videos on to script them, but because I've listened to a lot of Big Finish and it was taking up a lot of time, I thought, you know what, I'm going to review this on this podcast. But I will have an idea. I do have some ideas as to still making videos on this series. Because this series I bought also on CD, mostly because for different reasons to the 12th Doctor Chronicles, and I'll talk about that in my video when I review the next box set of the 12th Doctor Chronicles. But the reason I bought the book the bundle of all the CDs and box sets of this range specifically was because I'd heard a lot of praises surrounding it. And I don't know if Big Finish expected it to be one of their biggest hits in recent memory, but it's taken off and it's been one of their most critically acclaimed runs to the point where I don't think I've heard anyone say nothing but praise for it. And that is the 11th Doctor Chronicles. And specifically, I'm talking about first, Volume 3, Geronimo. So, much like the 12th Doctor Chronicles Time Jacked, whilst this isn't the first volume in the 11th Doctor Chronicles, there are two other volumes. This one is the start, Volume 3 is the start of a brand new series. So, you can listen to Geronimo, the first volume, very fitting title as well, Geronimo. And you can listen to this one first because this one starts a brand new series. Essentially, it starts kind of a new series for the 11th Doctor set during kind of like Series 7. So this is like Series 7 Part 1.5 in a way. And Geronimo is a box set that I only listened to not too long ago because I wanted to go ahead and first I was rewatching the entirety of 11th Doctor's era up until I got to the point where this box set where I stopped with the 11th Doctor era, and then I've gotten to the point where I can listen to this box set where it sort of, takes place within the timeline. And I figured that this was going to be good, not just because of the critical acclaim, but because I also listened to Time Jacked, which and the reason I'm mentioning Time Jacked again is because that Time Jacked, sorry, was produced, I believe, by Alfie Shaw, who would go on to produce the 11th Doctor Chronicles Geronimo, and so I felt like I was in pretty safe hands, and I was just so excited and pumped up to take a look at this box set. And because this is quite a long box set, and I've got a lot to say, I've saved this up for the last, I'm guessing, half an hour. So I'm going to dive into this and just, fully explore kind of this, talk about this box set, because this box set, I have to say, was a real gem. And I think overall, this is definitely the highlight for me to talk about in this episode. So, The 11th Doctor Chronicles, Volume 3, Geronimo. The plot synopsis I can read off from not the description on the Big Finish website, but instead talk about it myself. The 11th Doctor, basically, this takes place in between the events of the Snowman and the Bells of St. John. So I'm sure most of you have seen the 11th Doctor's era. Basically, as I'm sure you know, in the Snowman, the Christmas episode from 2012, at this point, the 11th Doctor had basically retired. The Doctor had retired because of his loss of the Ponds, Amy and Rory. He had no longer they no longer were traveling with him, and they had died. And so he felt this sense of guilt, and he, of course, decided not to travel anymore. But then in The Snowman, he meets Clara, this Victorian woman who's a barmaid slash governess, and he develops kind of a friendship with Clara in that episode. But of course, Clara dies. However, the Doctor figures out and realizes from the last dying words of Clara, "Run, your clever boy, and remember," that of course he's met this woman twice before. He's met this woman twice now. He met her first in the Asylum of the Daleks as Oswin Oswald, who ended up being a Dalek, and then he met her again, but this time in the Snowman. And of course that starts the storyline, the story arc of Series 7 Part 2, where the Doctor is on adventures with, of course, the modern Clara. However, this box set Geronimo takes place before the Bells of St. John, so this series takes place before that, where the 11th Doctor was traveling with a new companion that was tagged along with him as he was looking for Clara. And before he meets this new companion, there is actually a prologue that is only available to listen to via download, where the Doctor is trying to find Clara, and he meets this woman who happens to, I believe, be called Clara, and it sets up a fun little opening that sets up kind of the first full episode, known as The Inheritance, by Alfie Shaw, who was, of course, the producer on this series. And funny enough, with this prologue, this mini episode, I'm going to play a little clip of it. And I'll let you know what I think of it.
Can I help you, sir?
I mean, it's not. I mean, your face, it's all wrong.
How dare you?
No. It's a lovely face. One of the best, maybe. I don't know. Someone probably adores it. And then again, someone probably doesn't. That's normally how these things work, isn't it?
Get out.
This way, sir.
Right. Yes, sorry again about the face. No, that's not what
Out!
Sorry about all this. Bit of a mix-up. I'm looking for a different Clara Oswald.
That much is plain, sir. Didn't you consider that throughout the entirety of history, two different people might have the same name?
Well, I suppose I didn't, now you mention it. Wait. What do you mean, all of history?
We've been expecting you, Doctor.
So as I said, this prologue, my thoughts on it is that it's a very effective setup to the setup to this box set. It reminds me a lot of the mini episodes that came out, because if you go on the 11th Doctor like DVDs or Blu-rays box sets, you'll notice that during that era, there's a lot of like mini episodes or prequels to specific episodes. It's kind of it's kind of funny just seeing a load of prologues. There was quite a couple for the 12th Doctor, but more so I think with the 11th Doctor. So it's kind of reminds me a little bit of that. And because I said as well, it's set in between the Snowman and Bells of St. John, it's why I've chosen this TARDIS, which is more the 12th Doctor's TARDIS, but this was originally first used by the 11th Doctor, and it makes its appearance first in this era. So that's the TARDIS is used here. And the inheritance is actually the inheritance is the actual starting point, and in the inheritance, I've got the plot synopsis here on the little booklet actually. For Patricia and Valerie Lockwood, it was to be an evening like any other, dinner with a few friends, a chance to unwind and forget the horrors of the world. However, their plans are disrupted by the arrival of a mysterious stranger, a man who brings tragedy in his wake. And that, of course, leads to the 11th Doctor. And basically, with the inheritance, the Doctor lands in the planets, the world which Valerie Lockwood is lives in. And Valerie is basically the protagonist, played here by Safia Ingar. And in this um, story, you have basically the inheritance being this kind of disease that comes into where if someone wins like the lottery, it eventually leads to them suddenly, unexpectedly dying. And it starts out with probably a not great introduction for the Doctor and Valerie, not a great meeting where unfortunately the Doctor he knocks on the house and he's having to disarm a bomb. And as he's doing that, suddenly someone wins the lottery, a friend close to Valerie, and sadly he passes away. And what leads then to this is the character of Valerie coming outside, sort of like the back garden almost, or the back of their apartment or house, and the Doctor starts interacting more, and they get to know each other more. And I'm going to play a clip of that.
Please don't explode. There we are now. That's it. Good bomb. What are you doing? Get back inside. Maybe hide under a table.
That's not going to protect us from the blast, is it?
Probably not. But always worth a try. Just a little longer. And job's a good 'un. 100% less explodey. Thanks for the cutter.
Valerie.
What a beautiful name. You know what it means?
Does it mean you're going to explain what the hell your problem is?
Problem? Problem? What do you mean, problem?
You brought a bomb to our house.
To disarm it! Look, the casing's deadlocked. I had to scan for something to cut it open with. It's lucky you were nearby.
Yeah, feeling real lucky right about now. You seriously expecting me to believe you randomly found a bomb lying around and decided to disarm it?
It wasn't lying around, it was in a wall. But, yes, I have a knack for sniffing things out. I'm the king of hide and seek. Leo still hasn't found me.
Leo?
Da Vinci. In his defence, I did leave Florence and the 16th century and changed my face a few times. Does that count as cheating?
Are you mad?
Nah, you're right, definitely not cheating. Besides, if I'm mad, what does that make you, eh? Stranger turns up with a bomb and you decide to follow him outside?
I'm making sure you don't get away. I don't know who you are, but you're going to pay for what you just did.
You called the authorities?
Oh, yeah. They'll be here any minute.
Excellent. Thanks for that.
Wait. You wanted me to call them?
Hoped you would. Need a word with him.
I...
Where are we, by the way? It's like an oil rig down there, except someone's gone and built a whole city on top of it.
You have to know where we are. Research Rig 6?
Never heard of it.
You must have. No one's been allowed on or off the rig for months.
Which means I must be a local. Flawless logic. Pity it's completely wrong. This is Earth, isn't it? 54th century. I haven't overshot, have I?
Don't move!
Don't shoot! Just because I'm holding a bomb, that's no reason to shoot. Although now I say it out loud, it does sound like a perfectly good reason. I've defused it.
Hold still, please.
What are you doing? Do you mind?
Genetic match confirmed. You two need to come with us.
What? Me? Why?
Sorry, miss. We have our orders. Get in the car, please.
So that is the so that's the little clip there that gives you an idea as well. And I hope you realize as well there's two things that are terrific about it, and that is the two lead cast members, Jacob and Sophia. Both of them are terrific. Jacob has done great impressions before. I talked about his impression of the 12th Doctor and Time Jacked, and he was great in that. But I think it's safe to say that his 11th Doctor impression is his best, and it's his most famous. I think that's where I first knew about him in the first place, and it's rightfully his most famous one. It's a terrific impression that does a fantastic job in taking on the role of the 11th Doctor. Um, and what's also great about it, of course, is his chemistry with Sophia being really, really fun and great to watch. It's not just fun, but it's also very moving, and I'm going to get on to that. But Sophia, I'm not sure you say the name, Sophia Ingar is great as well. They also deliver a fantastic performance. I'm saying they because they are non-binary, but the character they play goes by she, her pronouns, just to clear things up. But Sophia is really great as Valerie. She brings something new and refreshing, where it's not just witty, feisty Doctor Who companion. She's someone who has a different kind of relationship with the 11th Doctor. Whereas with Clara and Amy, there's more of this loving kind of immediate love to the Doctor, and that there's not much arguing with either of them. That's more noticeable here, where they do disagree. She does fight back. Valerie does argue more with the 11th Doctor, so it's not immediate sort of like love and appreciation, but that does gradually build up as time moves on. And with the inheritance as well, it provides a really effective setup to the range. And the main thing that worked really well about it, and I think with this box set in general, is Time Jack, as I said, was a box set that had a lot of nice substance to it and some great aspects to it with the character um of Kira Sandstrom um being this great character who provided a great depth and character arc. But with Geronimo, this box set, I think there's even more of a moving kind of depth towards this box set, and that's the thing about it. It was surprisingly very moving. I didn't cry, but it was very moving as a box set overall, and that's mainly because with each three stories, not spoiling the ending for any of them, but each of the endings felt so moving and felt so powerful. The emotions felt earned throughout this box set, and as the climax of the inheritance goes along, the emotions feel earned and feel moving and real, and it feels really, really terrific thanks to both the writing and also the performances, especially from Sophia giving a really raw performance from the moments that happen in the opening of this box set, from the first story in this box set. And one thing as well that surprised me, that comes into this story and then is passed over into other stories in this box set, was the mention of the Time War. Not giving away too much, but with the 11th Doctor, he's an incarnation who didn't really involve the Time War being mentioned, mostly in the Day of the Doctor, but throughout most of his era, it was more passed away because you had the 10th and 9th Doctor having that angst, and that angst is kind of moved away from the 11th Doctor, who brings more of a joy to the universe and doesn't really mention or refer to the Time War, not until maybe like Day of the Doctor with the 50th anniversary and like near the end of his era. But most of his era doesn't really have that, and that was a bit of a surprise how much it gets mentioned in this box set. And it's something I really appreciated and also found to be refreshing. And that's the thing about this box set, and I imagine this era in general will have this era with the 11th Doctor and Valerie, is it's going to provide something that feels new and refreshing, whilst also feeling respectful and feeling so great. There's such a great fast pace to it, but also a lot of, there's some slow time as well for character growth and depth that isn't going to take away from that isn't taking away from the paciness of what the 11th Doctor's era has. So if you are a fan of the 11th Doctor's era, you'll definitely dig this box set. But I think even if you aren't, you'll find yourself appreciating this box set and finding yourself realizing that this was definitely kind of what Series 7 of the 11th Doctor's era kind of should have had. It should have had much more of this wonderful era. Now, obviously, Series 7, you can be a fan of it, but there was obviously, I think there was some, it does feel like there's some production issues here and there. So this just feels more tighter, and it just overall a really nice take on the 11th Doctor's era. And it comes into the next, and then once the inheritance is finished, Valerie, of course, continues traveling along with the Doctor, and we get the House of Masks, written by Georgia Cook, who I don't know if she had written for no, I think she writes for maybe the next 12th Doctor Chronicles box set, but basically Georgia Cook writes The House of Masks, where for Valerie's first trip through time and space, the TARDIS takes them to one of the Doctor's favorite places, Venice, during Carnival. Unfortunately, not everyone there is there to enjoy the party. Captain Tomasi has a murder to commit, and he needs Valerie's help to do it, which brings in a very fun plot. So I'm going to play a little clip of House of Masks.
So, Casanova ended up snobbing one of the most decorated Centauran generals that ever lived, and I used the distraction to blow up their atmosphere converter.
For which you owe him a chicken.
He helped save the world. Seemed a reasonable trade-off. For some reason, this place always ends up being targeted as a breeding ground. It was fish people in the canals last time I was here.
I can see why. It's very picturesque. Great place for a date.
Yes.
What is that?
Ooh, yes. Now that's a palazzo. Great big palace containing all sorts of palacey things, and by the sounds of it, a party. Home to some lord or lady, I imagine.
Only one family lives in that. Back home, they'd have filled that with flats.
Give it time, a bit of wealth redistribution and a dash of population growth. They'll get there.
I never even heard of this place. It's probably been built over in my time. A component factory or maybe another research rig. No more lords and ladies. No more carnivals. No more anything.
But for now, it's here. And isn't it beautiful?
It is. I love it. Thanks for bringing me, even if you didn't set the destination.
You're very welcome. So, what do you think?
About what?
The party. Shall we?
I don't think we're invited, unless you're suggesting we sneak in round back.
Sneak? Of course not. No, no. I detest sneaking. Well, sometimes I detest sneaking. Well, only if I'm being snuck up on. Sometimes it's the best part of the plan, like the icing on the great big plan cake. But today, no. Today, we go in through the front door.
You've got a plan, then?
Better than that, I've got a gizmo. Valerie Lockwood, care to accompany me to a dance?
Why, Doctor, I'd be delighted.
Much like the very first story, The Inheritance, this was a real treat, and I actually may have found this to be my favorite of the box set. It was a real fun historical, and you get kind of your typical stories. You get The Inheritance being kind of present day, no, not present day, but set in kind of normal sort of the home of the main character, and then you get your past story, your historical story, and then your future story with the end, which I'll talk about. But The House of Masks was overall a really terrific, was overall a really nice historical. It reminds me a little bit of Rogue in a way, actually. I almost thought of that, the recent episode from the latest season of Doctor Who, which was my favorite episode of that story. But yeah, the House of Masks was a real fun story that had a real joy to have with the 11th Doctor and Valerie first exploring the place of Venice, and it has a really nice conclusion that felt really moved as well. And then the ending, which involves the Doctor and Valerie, was also really terrific to listen to. And I think when you get those moments in the box set, it just makes me realize, it just made me like just feel like this is really terrific, gripping stuff from Big Finish. And I think just overall, I feel like they probably did put a lot of effort into it. I mean, I don't know if they expected it to be a massive success, but I think it's clear that with it, they were hoping to really create something that felt truly special. I remember there's a video on YouTube where Jacob Dudman says, where it's behind the scenes of Geronimo, saying that, you know, he's leaving Big Finish. It's with this and the 12th Doctor Chronicles with Kira Sandstrom that were his last hurrahs into the audios with Big Finish. And he said that these ones, the 11th Doctor ones, were his favorite ones to do. And you know what? I can't deny that these are terrific. And the House of Masks is a real joy historical story, which I don't know if we got much of that in the 11th Doctor's era, at least not in your typical period pieces, but this worked really, really well to provide a fun story. As it mentions that the Valerie gets is asked to be helped by someone who's ordering an assassination. So there's that fun, so there's a great little bit of Valerie being split from the Doctor, and then she goes to the Doctor, and there's this idea of figuring out, okay, what do we do to sort this out? And it leads to then a really nice conclusion that showcases this real that showcases, what Doctor Who is about. It's a show that's not about the hero shooting someone or ending war with a massive explosion. It's usually the hero finds a way to help people, and that's definitely the case with the ending of this House of Masks, which overall provides a really moving ending, not just to the Doctor and Valerie, but to also the plot of what goes on with the House of Masks and everything, and finding the right way to uh take down the enemy in a way, but in a way that doesn't feel like you're being cruel or cowardly, as the Doctor would put it. So that I think was a really nice I think that's mainly the thing I appreciated most. But overall, when you get the rest of it, it does become a fun historical story, a one that has a great fun period piece to it that mixes in with this great emotional hook at the very end, and I think that was really enjoyable. So I mentioned this might have been my favorite, but it's tricky to say because the next one, the last one, The End by Roshana Patel, was also really, really terrific. And I won't be surprised if people say that this was their favorite. So the plot of The End. Now, the plot description here is quite fun. Now, it says here, Valerie slash the Doctor is dying. Only the Doctor slash Valerie can save Valerie slash the Doctor. But for her slash him to survive, the Doctor slash Valerie will have to die in her slash his place. For the Doctor slash Valerie, this is Journey's End. Now, I'm going to play a clip of this, and I'll explain what exactly is going on.
The Doctor can't die. I need him.
Oh, ignore the blasted computer. I'm not done yet. I'm administering a Medibot.
Oh, that tickles.
Oh, you scared me!
Oh, did I? Oh, well, if I'm honest, it wasn't that much fun this end either.
The Medibot has taken over the function of your primary heart, giving your secondary system a chance to recover.
Shh! I don't play favourite. But the right one is better, isn't it? I've always thought so. Still, can't lie about here all day.
Your body's still being attacked by toxin.
Yep, just noticed that. Oh, I really need to get better kidneys. You know what? I think I might just lie here for a minute.
Thanks for helping him.
Yes, very kind.
Captain Vega?
What is it, Luna?
I've got 2 intruders in the med bay. Not entirely sure how they got aboard.
Ah, well, that went south quickly.
We're on our way. Hold them till we get there.
Oh, I'm really not going anywhere. If it's all the same to you, I'll escape later.
So with the box set, I've either picked one with Valerie or the Doctor dying, and so you're probably wondering what exactly is going on. Well, I won't say too much, but if I go ahead and put a clearer picture on the screen from the box set, so share this. So you may have noticed on the cover art that they are somewhere here. Here you go. You can see them on the right corner. These spider creatures on here. Now these creatures, known as time spiders, I can't remember what they're called now, but these involve, time travel and are involving time being messed around. And so with the story, The End, you get a story that has a very interesting kind of narrative, a unique narrative that makes it very gripping and engaging, where you have kind of two almost universes. You have two kind of parallel different points. You have both the same plot going around, but it's playing out differently. You have one that has the Doctor being attacked and he's dying almost, and so Valerie has to take on the role of helping him and saving him. Then you have the Valerie dying and the Doctor having to save it, and both are equally as investing. You can find Valerie's more investing perhaps if you were to have Valerie saving the Doctor, but the same applies here with the Doctor saving this friend that he's just recently had. And both ones are really terrific. They are both, I think, absolutely wonderful They're both great to listen to. And like the previous stories, and this might make me sound like a broken record, but the endings, once again, are really moving. When it gets to near the climax where it involves the Doctor, that becomes very moving. And I think it's with that where you just get the sense that these aren't just Jacob Dunman's doing an impression of the Doctor to make it sound like Matt Smith's entered the room. He's also providing his own, he's providing the emotional, moving moments that feel and work. It's not just a case of sounding a bit funny because he's doing the typical one note Matt Smith voice of, oh dear, something's gone wrong. No, it's actually, moving, and it works really, really well. And I won't say too much about the end because, especially with like that story and kind of it following two different sort of storylines, it is tricky for me to delve into really spoilers. So all I'll say is that it ends the box set really nicely. And I've said with other stories here and Big Finish, Harvest of the Sycorax and the Bluetooth more so, that I'd be glad to listen to them. But I think especially with this one, I think I would want to listen to this really a lot because I think it's one that I would easily want to put on again if I want to just put on a nice Big Finish story to listen to, because it's easy to listen to, but also really great when you're analyzing or just focusing on it, because it is just such a well-crafted box set, I would say. And I think, I've enjoyed it, but I know that I'm not absolutely I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed a lot of aspects to it, but it's also one that I haven't given 10 out of 10 love to. But I know that's because the rest of the box sets are apparently even better. So I'm so looking forward to it. I was already looking forward to it before, but listening to it now, I was like, yeah, this is really solid. And I really had a good time with this. Probably more than the 12th Doctor Chronicles. This was a real gem of a box set. And if I was to recommend one of the audios today for the Big Finish audios of Doctor Who that I've been talking about on this episode, I definitely would recommend Geronimo from the 11th Doctor Chronicles. And if you really enjoy that, chances are you should just pick up the rest of the series. I've got the rest of the series, but I haven't listened to the rest of them. But I will do definitely, and I'll probably give you my thoughts on them. Yeah, this was really terrific. I had a really good time with this, and I'd have to say that it was just really awesome. A really, really great box set to listen to. So I definitely would recommend this one. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely wonderful box set. I was going to say absolutely amazing, but yeah, I don't know if it was 10 out of 10 for me, but I've had a lot of enthusiasm towards it because of mainly the moments that it has that are just really not lovely to listen to. And yeah, I've just become enthusiastic to check them out, and I definitely want to take a listen to the rest of these 11th Doctor Chronicles. And I think because of that, I've talked about all the Big Finish audios. I've talked about as much as I can. It's nearly getting to an hour. So for now, I'm going to wrap this episode up. So thank you very much for listening or watching the Chillaxing and Chit Chatting podcast episode today. If you're interested in wanting to check out more, you can like this episode and also subscribe if you want to catch up with newer episodes. I do have a playlist for the rest of the podcast. You can also just check out my YouTube channel, scroll down and find my other episodes. And I hope you just enjoyed the episode. Let me know your thoughts on it, and let me know if you listen to any of these Big Finish audios and what you think of them. And I'll definitely be checking out the next audio of the 11th Doctor Chronicles, and I'll be taking a look at once again more Big Finish audios. But for now, I'm just going to say stay chillaxing and always remember to keep chit-chatting. Thank you very much for listening or watching.